Hi everyone, welcome to another video of Sunday Morning Drives. Today I will do a 2-year ownership review of my Honda S2000. This is the AP2 version of the Honda S2000. The difference from AP2 to the AP1 is mostly the engine. This engine is a 2.2 liter inline-4 naturally aspirated engine that revs all the way up to 8,000 RPM. And compared to the AP1, where it has a 2-liter displacement engine that revs up to 9,000 RPM. This engine produces 240 horsepower and 220 Newton meters of torque. So compared to the AP1 engine, this engine has a bit more torque, especially in the mid-range and lower rev range. So for daily driving and for road conditions, this actually feels quicker because of the increased torque just gives it a bit more punch. So I've owned this car for 2 years now, and when I first got this car, it's only done around 20,000 kilometers. So the previous owners hasn't driven it very much. So I was really lucky to find such a nice and pristine example. It looks very new, almost like a brand new car almost. So I was really lucky. Since then, I've done around 7,000 kilometers in this car. So that's around 3,500 per year. That's not actually that much, but I've gotten to know this car pretty well. So today I will share with you some of the quirky features of the car, some of the likes and dislikes, and also my ownership experiences. So firstly, I'll share with you the famous secret compartment of the S2000. The S2000 is actually quite practical. It's got a couple of cup holders here, and there is a central compartment you can open up, and there's a lock. You can actually lock it up. There's a little band here for your cards, a compartment here. This is for opening your rear boot space. And look at this, there's a little button here where you can press and open, and this is the secret compartment. It's actually quite large too. You can fit quite a bit of small items in here. Another button that is quite hidden away is the fuel cap button. It's actually behind the driver. It's right here. When I first got the car, it actually took me quite a while to find this button here. You have to pull this like so, and then it will release the fuel cap. This is the key to the S2000. It's a traditional key with a immobilizer remote control. So that's a lock, unlock, and opening your boot. So to start up the engine for the S2000, you firstly have to put in the key, turn the car. It doesn't start up the car when you turn the key. You then have to press the brake and the clutch. And there's a start button right here. You press that to start up the car. The floor of the S2000 is actually not very flat. There's a large beam here that goes all the way across from the driver's side all the way to the passenger side. This is to give the car more rigidity. And also there is a mechanical lump here that's inside the footwell of the driver's area. There are a couple of hooks behind the driver's seat. So you can hang some stuff here. I'm not sure what they are for. Normally, no one's gonna put anything behind the driver's seat. But this is, I guess, just to give you a bit more practicality. There are a couple of hooks as well behind the passenger seat. Unlike modern cars, the cars from the 90s and early 2000s, the bodywork is actually quite simple. So you can see inside the wheel arch, there's no lining at all. It's just a shell, and you can see everything inside. I guess there's a benefit for this too. I guess air can escape from here, from the wheel arch, so you don't need vents at the back. The air from the wheel arch will just escape from this empty space right there. So now I'll share with you 5 things I really like about the S2000. First is the engine. This engine is the heart of the car. It's naturally aspirated, it's very responsive. This actually has a lot of low end and mid end punch and revs all the way up to 8,000 RPM as well, and sounds very amazing. When you rev past 6,000 RPM, when the VTEC really kicks in, the engine sound becomes louder and you feel the push of the car from the VTEC. It's very, very exciting. The throttle response is also very, very good because it's naturally aspirated. So any small increments of input from your right foot is going to translate into the engine response. The amount of detail that you have from the gas pedal that translate into the car movement is very direct and very responsive. Second thing I really like is the interior of the S2000. As you know, the S2000 is a very driver-focused car. So on the dash here, everything is centralized and directed towards the driver. I really like that. So on the right hand side, these are for controlling your AC system. On the right hand side is your start button and your radio controls. And I really like the dash as well. It's digitalized and very quirky and very different from some of the dash designs from that era. It's very cool. I really like the rev counter, and it's very accurate as well. And you can see the speed very clearly in the center as well. So it's very simple but very effective. There is also something really quirky here. So this cover here, if you open it up, this is the radio system. So the whole ethos of the interior is to focus everything towards the driver and minus all the distractions. So there's no screens, no lights coming from here. If you close this up, everything is dark when you drive at night or even during the day. The only light that comes to the driver or the light you can see are only around this area. The third thing is the open top experience. The S2000 is a soft top convertible, so it's very nice to drive it with the top down. It feels really airy and you are in one with the environment. You hear the engine, hear the exhaust, just a great experience. To open up the soft top, firstly you make sure your key is turned on so there's electricity running through the car. Secondly, you make sure your handbrake is on. And then there are a couple of latches that you release on both sides. After that, there is a button here you pull and the roof will open. Only takes about 10 seconds to do it. The fourth thing is the looks of the S2000. I think the S2000 still looks so beautiful after these years, and even compared to some of the modern cars these days, it still looks very, very amazing. I really like the low bonnet and the low front end of the car. Because of safety standards nowadays, you can't design or build a car with such a low front end anymore. So this is very special, and the proportion of it is still very, very nice. It has a very long bonnet and very long front end compared to the rear. The proportion of the S2000 is really, really elegant, and it still turns heads. Every time when I drive out, people still turn around and look at it. The fifth thing is the handling. This car is a front mid-engine car. The engine actually sits behind the front axle. So it handles really well, almost like a mid-engine car, and the balance of it is also quite nice. I had a MX-5, an ND2 MX-5 before I bought the S2000. Comparing the S2000 to that, this feels more focused. In terms of the turning in sensation, it feels a little bit better and less prone to understeer compared to the MX-5. So it handles really, really well. The only negative in the handling is the suspension is a bit on the soft side. So it has a bit of body roll when you are turning hard into corners. But the plus side for that is it rides really well over bumps, over imperfections on the road. The ride is actually very, very comfortable. The gearbox is also one of the most amazing things in this car. It has such an engaging shift action and it's very short, very accurate. It's probably one of the best, or not the best, manual shifters I have ever used. It's better than the one in my Exige, in my Type R. And also it's very, very easy to heel toe because of the great response from the engine. So every small input from your gas pedal translates to an immediate rev increase in the revs. There are not much to dislike about this car. It's a very, very nice car to own and to drive. The whole experience is great. If I'm to nitpick here, the only few dislikes I have is firstly the sitting position. I think for a lot of 90s cars, they designed the sitting position quite high. I would wish that they could have lowered the seat a little bit more. The seat is actually sitting quite high from the floor of the car. If they could lower this for another 5 centimeters, I think your sitting position will be better. You sit lower in the car and you feel more in one with the car as well. Second dislike is you can't actually change the position of the steering wheel. There's no adjustment at all for the steering. It's fixed in place. So basically the only adjustment is from your seats. But then again, this seats doesn't have much adjustment. There's only a lever here to change your angle of the backrest, and you can move the seat forward and back. You can't even move this up and down. So the adjustment in the S2000 in terms of sitting position is actually very, very limited. The third dislike is the stock exhaust. Everything in my car is stock. I haven't modified anything to it. So the original or the stock exhaust sounds a bit muted and a bit restricted. So this is why a lot of people change or modify the exhaust to give it more flow and a better sound. The fourth thing is the weight of the S2000. The S2000 actually weighs around 1,300 kilograms. That's actually quite heavy for a compact car and a topless, a soft top car like this. Back then when Honda firstly designed this car, because they wanted to increase the rigidity of the S2000, so they designed quite a bit of strong steel members for the chassis to make sure the rigidity is on par. And also the body panels are made from steel, so just make this car quite heavy. To compare this to a Lotus Elise per se, the Lotus Elise has a aluminium body structure and composite body panels, so makes the Elise quite light compared to the S2000. And the Elise only weighs around less than 1,000 kilograms. And the size of the Elise and the S2000 are pretty similar. And you can feel that in the S2000 too. When you are braking, when you are turning into corners, you can always feel the weight. In terms of my ownership experiences in these 2 years, I have had not much issues with the car. The car has been really, really reliable for such an old car like this. And I have just done my regular servicing with Honda, changing oils, the fluids, and oil filters. That's about it. Nothing broke down, nothing gave me trouble at all. The only upgrade next I might be thinking is to change all the clamps inside the engine bay, because some of the clamps, the metal clamps, have rusted. So that's something I might need to look at and replace them. But other than that, this car has been amazing. For the S2000, I want to keep it as stock as possible. I think in stock form, it's already pretty good because I'm not tracking this car. I only drive it as a weekend casual car. I might change the mid section and the rear section of the exhaust just to give it a bit more free flow from the engine and also a better sound, a more exciting sound. The second mod that I might do is to lower the VTEC. I might do a refresh, OBD refresh, and just to change the program a little bit, to increase a little bit power if I change the exhaust, and also to lower the VTEC where it comes in. Right now the VTEC comes in at around 6,000 RPM. I think that's a little bit high because 6,000 to 8,000 red line, there's only 2,000 revs to play with when the VTEC opens. If I can lower this to say 5,000 or 4,500, I think it will make this car a much more exciting car to drive on the road. The third thing I might do are changing these tires. Right now these tires are pretty slippery in the wet, and in the dry their grip is mediocre only. So by changing them into Michelin's, the 4Ss, I think it'll increase the performance of this car by quite a big margin. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, this review of my S2000. I really like this car. This is a dream car of mine since my university days. So I will keep this car for a long time to come, I think. So this is the fourth video of my ownership reviews. I've done my GT3, my Honda Civic Type R, and also my Lotus Exige. So if you haven't watched them, you can go onto our channel to watch those videos. Coming up next, I'll do an ownership review of my Volkswagen California Ocean. That is a caravan that I have owned for a year. So please stay tuned and hope to see you in our next video.